I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is PsycHacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is holders and sniffers. So this should be a fun one. In this episode, I'm going to argue that there are two fundamental ways of approaching relationships, and that individuals can be sorted into these two categories according to how they respond to a very basic problem that will inevitably arise over the course of their relationships. On the surface, it's going to sound like a very silly problem, but as we'll see, these two categories actually correspond with two diametrically opposed attitudes toward approaching relationships on a deep level. And just what is this problem? Simple. What do you do with your farts? Everybody farts, and everybody thinks that their farts smell less bad than they do to other people. So what are you going to do with your farts in a relationship? Do you hold them in and try not to fart around your partner? Or do you let them rip and let the chips fall as they may? Are you a holder or a sniffer? Now, farting can be a literal problem in a relationship, but much more commonly, it's a figurative problem. That is, farting is a metaphor for all the unpleasant realities about you and your partner. Whether you like it or not, there are unattractive, unpleasant, even disgusting aspects of our natures and personalities. People are selfish, lazy, arrogant, defensive, stubborn, self-righteous, aggressive, victimizing, and ignorant, just to name a few. Pretending that these qualities don't exist or insisting that they shouldn't exist is insane. These attributes exist in all of us. You could even consider them to be our shadows. So with this understanding, the question becomes, what do we do with these aspects of ourselves? Do we repress and hide them, or do we open up and share them? And it's an honest question. One approach is not better than the other, and there are pros and cons to each. However, irrespective of which side of the fence you find yourself on, I found that it's a very good idea for folks to partner up with like-minded individuals. In general, holders need to be with other holders, and sniffers need to be with other sniffers. It's very hard for a holder and a sniffer to navigate a satisfying long-term relationship. And this is because holders and sniffers are fundamentally prioritizing two different but reasonable values. On the one hand, holders are trying to prioritize harmony in their relationships. And on the other hand, sniffers are trying to prioritize authenticity in the same. Now, both of those things sound good, right? Like you're going to be hard pressed to find someone against either harmony or authenticity. The issue is, like so many things in life, it is often necessary to make hard choices with respect to our priorities. And this is especially true given the fact that these two values are kind of antithetical to each other. Like in general, the more harmony you want, the more you might have to repress authenticity and vice versa. I wish this weren't the case, but as long as people aren't enlightened saints, the one is going to come at the expense of the other. It's just the way it is. Now, let's take a look at each group in turn. First, the holders. Holders understand that there are unpleasant and unattractive aspects of the self and other. However, they have chosen to do their best to keep the relational space as clean as possible and to maintain a presentable, if not attractive, front. In order to do that, they repress or hide or obscure certain parts of themselves. And in return for doing so, they are compensated with smoother, more agreeable, more harmonious relationships. This is akin to approaching relationships like roles. Just like we expect a certain measure of professionalism from those with whom we do business, holders expect a certain degree of courtesy from those with whom they enter into relationships. In both cases, this potentially requires doing some violence to your authentic impulses. And this can be difficult and painful. Like, it's hard to hold in your farts over a long enough timeline. They're eventually going to come out one way or the other, right? And that's why, if they go down this path, holders need to create space in the relationship to relinquish that role at certain intervals. Like, no one is expected to live at the office, right? They work 8, 10-hour shifts, during which time they are expected to enact their professional roles, and then they get a chance to drop that role. Without this release, holders will likely feel suffocated by the role restriction, and they may resort to increasingly strange or dysfunctional tactics to create the space they feel they need in the relationship. So, those are holders. If you're interested in taking your understanding to the next level, I would encourage you to check out the Captain's Quarters, my members-only self-improvement community. Your monthly membership will get you access to a cadre of like-minded, supportive individuals, bi-monthly group consultation sessions hosted by yours truly, and exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. Click the link in the description for more information. Hope to see you aboard. Sniffers, on the other hand, want the real deal. They also understand that there are unpleasant and unattractive aspects of the self and other. However, they feel that hiding or repressing those aspects is a kind of fake love, a sham love. And that love, in any case, is about being unconditionally accepted by their partners. Sniffers would prefer to fight honestly than to get along under what they would consider to be false pretenses. And in return for doing so, they are compensated with more raw, more vital, more authentic relationships. The issue here is that no one's farts smell better than to the person doing the farting. Who wouldn't want to be loved and accepted unconditionally by their partner? That's not the problem. The problem is loving and accepting the other unconditionally in return. And one of the things you might have to love and accept in the other is their tendency to become disgusted, frustrated, and judgmental, which is a kind of farting, in response to your own farts. When people complain that their partners don't accept them, they themselves are not accepting their partner's non-acceptance, which, more than anything else, highlights the difficulty inherent in this approach to relationships. You just being yourself could be gross and infuriating and completely unattractive to your partner. And while everyone is different, there are certain traits and behaviors that, in general, tend to corrode attraction and diminish desire. You can do whatever you like, but you certainly can't expect people to respond in the way you would prefer when you do whatever you like. And the fact of the matter is that while you can love anybody, some people are much more difficult to love than others. In order for two people to just be themselves in a relationship, a few criteria are required. These folks typically need to have a very secure relationship, a mutual commitment to talking things out frequently, strong communication skills, and a fair amount of emotional maturity. That is, if they don't want to devolve into unproductive conflict on a regular basis. And I hope you can appreciate that's actually a lot of things. Many problems are much more easily avoided than confronted. But it can be difficult for sniffers to hold their tongues, as that would be doing violence to an authentic impulse. My point is that it's painful either way. It's painful to hold in your farts, and it's painful to smell other people's farts. So you have to be real honest with yourself about the flavor of pain you're more willing to tolerate, because you're going to have to deal with this problem one way or another. In fact, one of the best pieces of relationship advice I've ever received was from a mentor who told me, Orion, you gotta like the smell of her farts. I think what he was saying is that everybody farts, in the sense that everybody has these less than ideal aspects of their personalities. However, some of these aspects, for whatever reason, are going to be easier for you, the particular individual, to tolerate. Some farts are charming quirks, others are disgusting deal breakers. And this categorization varies from person to person. This is important to consider because even if you're dealing with holders, the farts are going to leak out eventually. By the same token, sniffers differ significantly with respect to the frequency and intensity of their flatulence. So if you're someone who values authenticity, then at least try to find those who have already made an effort to clean up their acts. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. And please send this episode to someone who you think might benefit from its message, as it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. And anyone looking to join my free weekly newsletter or to book a paid one-on-one consultation can do so on my website. The links to everything are in the description below. As always, I appreciate your support and thank you for listening.